electronics work out, and you end up with a dozen people who just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Well, you can't talk about collateral damage and winning the hearts and minds of people. I mean, this did not work in Vietnam. It did not work in Iraq. And so we moved in with a very light force and put our heavy forces into Iraq. And whatever successes that Petraeus had in Iraq was in using American forces to actually police and get to know the communities. There have never been enough Americans to do that. And so every time an American patrol is in trouble, they whistle and they come in and they bomb who they think are the bad guys. And the episode where the military said they killed 30 people, and Karzai and the United Nations and everyone else that's investigated says the number is 130, is just the most egregious example. But those examples and the number of air attacks has gone up from year to year. And the theory behind Petraeus is now we're going to put enough people in so we can handle it on the ground. There aren't enough people, and it can't happen. We're going to isolate certain places. We've made Kabul fairly safe at this point, except for the occasional suicide bomb. But the rest of the countryside just can't be controlled that way.
Dr. Wood is right. Kabul right now, my family lives right now in Afghanistan. In Kabul, especially in Kabul right now, the number of suicide bombers is lesser than before. But I mean, the main target is not only Kabul, the other villages, the other provinces of Afghanistan they are not safe. Only Kabul is getting better. There's less, the crime has been less than before right now. And but I mean, only Kabul is not important because all the embassies are there, all the U.S. forces are there, the ministries, all. But other provinces of Afghanistan is also important. The American or international communities want peace all over Afghanistan, not only in Kabul. So, I mean, the more troops, I mean, the more, that's what one of the Taliban commanders, they said on the new tape that was came to the local TV channels in Peshawar. So they said the more troops the international community sent to Afghanistan, the more suicide bombers, the more kidnapping, the more we will stand up against them.
Can I respond to
I have to do a couple of things.
Okay.
So I've been remiss in this. This is a live show. It's a call-in show. Our number is 425-8844. If you have a question or a comment for one of our guests, please call our number. It should be on the screen, 425-8844. And before I take your question, I want to, the airstrikes, right, the air attacks, I think as you described, well, maybe if you did, in this article about the attack on the village of Farah, is that how it's pronounced?
Farah.
Apparently the Americans, they say they got bad intelligence. They thought there were Taliban fighters in the building. Apparently they were moving around. But one of the other factors in this whole problem is that if you have people who are who are in a power struggle with another group, they will report, right? Yeah. Say, well, these guys are doing this bad thing, and so you should bomb them. And the Americans, if they believe them, so they do that. Yeah. So they're used to settle internal grudges.
Yeah. There's no shortage of internal grudges in Afghanistan after the number of years that the fighting's gone on.
Yes.
And it's not just a matter of religion or even language. It's a matter of tribes who have...
Qawms, they call it. Different tribes in Afghanistan.
And the Americans have become your ally to execute your worst friend in the worst of cases.
Yes.
And I think we saw this in Iraq also.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? The U.S. took sides.
Kurds.
Yeah.
So they fight against each other. If American government is one of the intelligence is from one tribe, and they don't like that tribe, they say they are good, bad people, they're Taliban, and the truth is they are not. They have their own, they want to take advantage or, take advantage of American to do something bad today.
Let me make a general comment that's very much on this line, and that is that normally we think of the police as being in charge of law and order, and we think of the Army as defending the external boundaries from those who would come within. We are producing something in Iraq and in Afghanistan, an army that is designed to maintain order inside. Now, this is not what people are trained to do. If they're trained to kill with high-tech weapons, my basic thesis is that no foreigners can police Afghanistan. It's got to be done by Afghans. There are foreigners who may be able to assist them with economic projects and to be their guests, which is a good thing to be in Afghanistan. But the notion that any country is going to accept foreign police and a group that has been trained by foreigners who are unaware of the currents within the society is going to resent it, and it's not going to work. And that's what we're doing in two countries with American tax dollars.
Sherry.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to something that both Masood and Dr. Wood referred to, which is, the relatively larger war that was conducted in Iraq. And knowing, as we know now, that larger presence in Iraq did not win the hearts and minds of the Iraqi people. In fact, it has done the opposite, and that it seems that it's the nature of modern warfare that it's horrific in its nature, and that collateral damage is always going to be a large issue, especially when we're using a lot of air power. And even when we've started to withdraw troops from this war or other wars, that's always been followed with increased airstrikes, and which is it's a greater risk to the civilians. And the sources that I trust in terms of Iraq are now saying well over 1 million Iraqis have died as a result of this war, not all by American military, but as a result of this war, and that well over half of those have been children. And we're now seeing the use of air power in Afghanistan and the results of that. And this is one of the children who survived the attack on Farah. But I just want to bring to light that the Afghan civilians are saying that of those 130 or 40 who died in that 95 of those were children. 95 of those were children. And I think it's important to keep that in mind, that we are, and there's very good information. Katrina vanden Heuvel wrote a good article in The Nation in which she refers to, as many others do, the fact that when these attacks occur and so many civilians die, it really, it increases the risk of terrorism. It increases that response. It increases the affinity for the Taliban and support for the Taliban. So is that what we really want to be accomplishing in helping a country or in helping the world become a safer and more peaceful place?